I got to Fort Campbell, Kentucky, and they said, "Don't unpack, you're on the plane." I was a repairer on Longbow Apache aircraft, and I worked on avionics and armament systems.
From 2003 to 2010, James Hardin did 3 tours in Iraq.
There was a lot of incoming mortar rounds, rocket rounds. Pretty much daily we saw casualties, we saw explosions, just war.
Hardin was diagnosed with post-traumatic stress disorder while still serving overseas.
So essentially you just pretty much gave up the idea that you're safe at any time, day or night, 24/7, 365. And unfortunately that switch never got shut off when I got back to the States.
He describes a tormented life. He couldn't hold a job, socialize, or hardly leave home. He says he became numb, turning to drugs and alcohol for comfort when therapy with the VA failed.
They pretty much threw every pill that they could think of at me.
So at that point, you really weren't feeling?
No.
After seeing a snippet on the news, Hardin's girlfriend pushed him to reach out about an experimental treatment being studied for PTSD, one that involved MDMA, the pure form of a party drug known as Ecstasy or Molly that's been illegal since the 1980s.
Millions of people are suffering. 22 veterans are dying from suicide every day. So the idea of not looking at something carefully that might help them just because others might abuse it just doesn't make sense to me.
In 2010, under federal approval, Dr. Michael Matofer, a Charleston psychiatrist, began testing MDMA on 24 cops, firefighters, and war veterans with PTSD, including Hardin.
Most of them had had lots of different medications from the VA.
His approach? 1 dose of MDMA, a 125 milligram pill, along with 8 to 10 hours of intense psychotherapy and overnight monitoring. The drug, which has stimulant and hallucinogenic properties, is known to release serotonin and other feel-good neurotransmitters and hormones that promote feelings of euphoria and increased trust. The process is normally carried out for just 3 sessions, 1 month apart. That's 3 pills total.
It's absolutely amazing that small amount of, essentially 375 milligrams of a substance would be able to change my entire life.
Hardin compares his first treatment to running a marathon, physically and emotionally exhausting, but worth the work.
I don't think I'd be alive today. I didn't see any light at the end of the tunnel, and I had constant suicidal thoughts.
Matofer had seen results before. In his first clinical trial, which began in 2004, he tested the treatment on women who had suffered sexual abuse and had PTSD for an average of 19.5 years. 83% of the women overcame their trauma and remained PTSD-free 3 years later. But some fear legalizing MDMA would lead to more drug abuse. According to the National Institute on Drug Abuse, MDMA can increase heart rate, blood pressure, lead to overheating and dehydration. In fact, in 2010, more than 10,000 people under the age of 21 went to the emergency room with MDMA in their systems. Matofer acknowledges the risks, but points out none of these cases happened under medical supervision.
We picture it wouldn't be like a drug that you could write a prescription and get at the pharmacy. We think it'll be approved just for use in specialty clinics, kind of like the methadone clinic model, you know.
It's been more than a year since Hardin wrapped up treatment. He's now in school studying avionics and engaged to be married in June. Like the vast majority of Matofer's patients, he no longer has most symptoms of PTSD.
Instead of internalizing everything, I started to actually perceive what was happening around me.
Must have felt good.
Life-changing.
Hardin believes he's cured. Matofer says maybe.
You know, we're not saying we've finished proving it yet, but we're saying this is very promising. Looks like it might help millions of people, and it needs to be researched carefully, and that's what we're doing.